Wow, let's get into these notes with the Timeless Tarot pull and the Five of Swords and the Five of Wands, which flipped out together upright. And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm feeling in a big way. So as I'm recording this message, the moon is in the sign of Aquarius, and Mars is exactly conjunct Uranus at the Gemini degree of 3 degrees in the sign of Gemini. This is electric, okay? Like the moon and Pluto being in Aquarius. Oh, wow, this conjunction has really been going on this whole week as I'm recording this, anything within 3 degrees is considered a conjunction. And it also can vary depending on, the energies of the sign and the planet. But y'all, this trine is live, okay? Especially here with the other trine popping off, which happens to be with, we have Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries. Meanwhile, Venus and Jupiter are in the sign of Leo. Woo! So this is a lot of air and fire energy, and fire is fed by air. The right amounts of air will get a really good fire going. And with double fives, this is bringing about a lot of change, not to mention the fact that Jupiter is really opposing Pluto with the Leo Aquarius axis is being highlighted right now. And so with double fives, again, this is speaking to a lot of change. And, with these archetypes going on with Gemini and Aquarius, this is a lot of sudden, unexpected, very potent electric change, all right? And it's not necessarily anything to be feared, and I don't necessarily see this as good or bad. I do see this as sudden and unexpected. And I think that it's happening more in the realms internally as well. In fact, I feel like many of us might be experiencing what I would like to call altitude sickness. For example, I live and I'm used to more humid climates. So when I travel somewhere like Colorado, where the altitude is much higher and the air is much drier, sometimes it's very easy to get distracted by the mountain views and to forget that you need to start drinking much more water than you are used to drinking because of the altitude. It begins to dehydrate you, and you don't really notice that it's happening, but then suddenly you think that you don't feel well. And it's not that you really don't feel well, but it's because you're dehydrated and because you're having a little bit of altitude sickness. And this is just a mild version of it, right? So one time when I was much younger and was definitely still having a lot of good times, I had just gotten to Colorado for a wedding, and, there was lots of adult beverages flowing, okay? And so I was enjoying myself and not out of control, but again, I wasn't taking into consideration the altitude shift. And so I ended up having to go home early, and I was very my sinuses hurt very bad. I had a horrible headache. I thought I was getting a sinus infection. I was getting dizzy spells. And this is the altitude sickness I'm speaking of that we can be experiencing right now. Because now, as this is happening, we have to also remember that towards the end of July, as we move into Leo season, that the nodes will shift to Aquarius and Leo. The north node in Aquarius, the south node in Leo. So, and like I said, we have Pluto and Jupiter, or I'm sorry, Pluto and Pluto and Jupiter already in the signs of Leo and Aquarius. So this is like a taste of what's to come. And we need to prepare our bodies for this ascent that we're making as we go higher and higher into states of consciousness and collectively, because Aquarius is the collective, right? And it's being fueled by Jupiter and Leo. So this is this is a slingshot, and we are feeling it physically. And this requires a slowing down. This requires more hydration. And this is not just as simple as drinking water, but it is also like slowing down on the sugars. This is also having more soups and things like that, or teas, if that is available to us. That is something that we're going to have to become a bit more conscious of, specifically in the next year, because of Jupiter and Leo being here for some time. So I was just wanting to bring that up because it feels very important right now to mention these physical changes that feel as though we are climbing a mountain, and it's because in many senses we are. But then speaking to more immediate situations going on right now, there is a change in the nervous system. Uranus is being highlighted here along with Gemini, right? This conjunction is happening under the Aquarius moon at the Gemini degree. So, really looking at that Five of Swords caddy, I love this depiction of the Five of Swords here because it's speaking more to not just somebody getting over on someone or an unexpected win, although I do think that there could be some unexpected wins in terms of a change of heart, Jupiter and Leo, and that leading to a change of mind, Mars and Gemini, Pluto and Aquarius. That, in fact, we do have at the bottom of the deck the Hanged Man or the Hanged Cat. And again, this is Neptune. Neptune is in Aries, so this might be getting some clarity about things that we were not clear about before. And this can be collectively and this can be personally as well. I do see it as both. I do feel it as both. And overall, though, I think that this transit seeks to change our perspective. And that is really the medicine of the Hanged Man. Is it's seeing things from a different, and especially in this case, a much higher perspective than what we're used to looking through. And that this new perspective helping us to make personal and collective shifts in how we show up for ourselves and for the collective. And but like with these caddies here, it's going to take some playing around with the Five of Wands, right? That is Saturn in Leo. And so, no, our point is Jupiter is in a fire sign right now. It's in Leo. So how perfect is that card? And it is trining those the Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So this slowing down, okay, not only is good for our nervous system because it is making a lot of shifts and changes, that, allowing there to be space for that integration to take place and not to just react, because this is very easy to suddenly react. And some things might require that. But most of the time it doesn't. Most of the time we can have that realization, and then we need to sit with it before making the decisions and taking the actions. If there's any sudden action that needs to be taken, it could be stillness and hydration. Because the other thing that really I like about that Five of Swords is that this is the download, right? This is something coming down from above and encircling this caddy's consciousness. And this will also take a little bit of time to realize what has come through. This has been my personal experience with Aquarius downloads and transits, is that as it's coming in, it is a little difficult to receive because, again, it is not something that we can see necessarily in the physical form, but we can feel its presence, and its presence is very electric. But it's also confusing because we're not familiar with it. And so there is a little bit of pushback because we don't understand what it is. And then it comes in, it comes down, and it can be a very physical sensation. And then suddenly, boop, there's this awareness, this new awareness. But even it still might not have kicked in yet, but at least like the physical sensations and intensity begins to subside. And then slowly but surely, the information is there. So this is just a lot of change. So this is, I would say, hydrate, take it slow, don't pop off. And if it's time to pop off, even still, wait a minute. And this is some much needed change. And I think that's the other thing that, like, if we look at our story, not necessarily his story or her story, but the collective ours, us, what belongs to all of us, our story would ask that oftentimes we don't know what needs changing until the situation arises. And so we just need to allow ourselves that sort of softness, and also just a curiosity and play, because there is Leo energy here, right? And even Gemini energy is rather playful. So is Aries energy. All right, these are all very playful energies. And then the Aquarius energy is very innovative. It wants to create something new. And before that, comes to the collective, we got to play around with that for a while. We got to experiment with it. We got to, do the do the scientific method of testing and, retrieving data and comparing data. So it's all a part of this process that is life, this journey up the mountain. All right, well, thanks for listening, and take care of your nervous system as best you can. Definitely meditation and journaling will help, because you think you'll remember it, but you might not. This stuff is sudden, fast, and electric. So, take care. Peace.